It's a good reminder for all of us. As we talked about Shiphrah and Puah last week, and we looked at how these two women said no to that most powerful man in the world, and in that process, they understood, they had an understanding that their love for God was greater than the power of the Pharaoh. And it helped them to say no, and their no is what God used to propel His work in His kingdom. And the same can be true in our lives as well. Today, I want to talk to you about control. And when I want to talk about control, I want to talk about, the illusion of control, and ultimately what can happen in us, kind of the results of what can happen, or the cost in our own lives when we don't let go of control. This could be a little difficult for some of us because we're going to get as practical as we can with this, because there's times that we are holding on, we are gripping a hold of something and trying to control it, and we're calling it love. We're calling it faithfulness, but it isn't, it's fear. And so today, as I was reflecting on what we're talking about, a story popped into my head from about 30 years ago. I was in this small group of kind of early to late 20s was kind of the range of just guys. And we were getting together, and I tell you, of all the small groups I've been in, this small group was probably the most authentic and real and transparent group I had ever been a part of. These guys were really sharing what was going on in their lives, what they were struggling with, and we were praying for each other, encouraging each other, and trying to help one another. This particular night, as we were talking together, and I mean, we would talk for hours. Sometimes this group would go on for a long period of time, and we were talking about honesty. This is a big part of our lives, as being people who are honest, that we are authentic, that we are truthful with one another, that our word is our bond, our integrity is wrapped up in our truthfulness. And so this was a big deal. And we were starting to reflect on all the areas in our life where we're cutting corners. And we were thinking about ways where, we would say we were honest, but if we were, really being honest, there were some areas maybe that we weren't as honest as we said we were. And all of a sudden, this guy, I'm going to call him Bob today. It's not his real name, but I'm calling him Bob because some of my buddies from back in those days watch this. And so I'm going to try and protect this individual, but you know who you are and you own this, all right? So Bob, he chimes up in this group and he goes, "Guys, I have a confession." Okay, go for it. And he said, as I got married, we knew he got married about 5 years earlier, and he said, my wife has been gaining weight. And everyone in the group all of a sudden is like, what are we talking, like, we're not this close. Like, what are we about to talk about? So he says, and it's costing me money. He said, when she got pregnant, then all of a sudden I had to buy all these maternity clothes. And then after the baby's born, she couldn't get back into her other clothes, so now I had to buy all these other clothes as well. And she knows the budget is tight. Like, okay. And he said, so she came to me because she, and I think she could probably sense his frustration. And she said, "Does it bother you that I've gained weight?" And he said, "No." And in our group, he said, "I have to confess, I lied. I was not honest with my wife. My relationship cannot go forward if I am not an honest person with my wife." And we're all like, "No, it can. Trust me." And he's like, I am going to tell her that I lied. And that I'm not okay that she's gained weight. Okay, I'll finish that story in just a minute. Look, there are things, like in that moment, there was something that was welling up in me. Now, it's not my husband. It's not my relationship. He's not even a family member. But everything in me started to want to control this situation. Do you know that feeling? Where there's something in front of you, somebody else is making a decision. Something is going a certain direction. Choices are being made. The pieces are in motion, and you see that it's not going to be the best situation, or you know better. You've been through it before. You have experience in something, and so you want to grab a hold of it, and you want to manipulate it. You want to control it. You want to stop it. You want to start it, whatever it might be. I mean, think in your own life of all the ways this might take place. If you've ever had kids, ever been around kids, been close to kids, you know what this is like. Because they make all kinds of dumb decisions, thinking they're the best decision in the world. And it doesn't matter if they're 6, and it doesn't matter if they're 22. They're trying to make their way, and part of that is risk. Part of that is trying things out. Part of it is just ignorance on their part, and they just start moving forward. And you see the problem, right? You see that they're going where they shouldn't be going. That this decision, I mean, yes, there is a probability it could work out. There's also a probability that if I take all the parts of a watch that are all taken apart and I drop them on the table, there is some mathematical probability that it all falls together as a watch. But that is so rare, we're not going to consider it. And sometimes our kids make that and they say, there's a chance this could work out. Yeah, but it's like the watch thing, kid. This isn't going to work. And so you want to control it. And so you lecture, right? You tell stories. You give examples. You do everything you can to change it. I see people do this with a diagnosis that they get or a diagnosis for a loved one. They try and get all the information. We try to study. We try to outrun the information that we get because maybe we can change the outcome of this situation. And I see it sometimes with people with declining parents, that are really and you try everything you can, but the decline keeps happening. And you're trying to control things. You're trying to control things on the medical side. You're trying to control things in the home side or with them. Maybe there's a prodigal person in your life, someone who has left. And there's this desire to control the environment so they can come back. And you spend all this time working hard to keep a door open, waiting for the moment that they come back. And it becomes a control issue. This is something that we really need to be paying attention to, because God can use an open hand, but it's hard to use a gripped hand. Because I'm controlling, I'm directing, I'm the one saying how this is going to go. And again, it feels like faithfulness. Dare I say it feels like love. And it is not. It's fear. It's fear. It's disguised as love. It's disguised as faithfulness. And I want to tell you about a woman today that many of you maybe have not heard of. The story you might have heard of. Her son, for sure, you have heard of. The entire world has heard of her son. But this story comes out of the exact same Exodus story as we looked at last week. And this woman is actually the mother of Moses. Her name is Jochebed. And Jochebed is an Egyptian woman. And during this period of time, like we learned last week, the Pharaoh asked the midwives to kill the male-born Hebrew boys when they were born because he was concerned about the population growth of the Hebrew people that might overtake and overpower the Egyptians. So he was looking to do population control. And these midwives said, no, that was our deal last week. And so he has come up with a new plan. His new plan is that all of the baby Hebrew boys would be thrown into the Nile River. Horrific. But he is the law of the land. And he has decreed this, and this is now what should happen. And sadly to say, it is what happened. This destruction of the people, this male genocide of the Hebrew people was taking place. And while this happens, Jochebed gives birth to a boy. She does what any mother would do. She tries to hide her son from Egypt, from those that are searching out to find out who has had a baby, to listen for the cries of a baby. can imagine trying to keep this a secret. And she did for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, at about 3 months, she can no longer keep this silent. This child is going to get found out, and she is now stuck. What is she to do? As a mother, what can you do in this situation? So she devises a plan, and it is a harebrained plan at best. It is beyond just a hope and a prayer. It's almost reckless, but the alternative is her child is going to be found out, and he'll be killed. So she devises this plan, and she starts by building a basket. She gets the supplies. She weaves a basket as she knew how to do that. She was probably taught by her mother and her mother's mother and her mother's mother before that. Passed down the skill set. And this just isn't any basket. This is a basket that is going to be the ark. This is going to be a boat that is going to carry her son. And she takes that basket and she fashions it as best as she can. This is, in my vision, the way that a mother in the most dire of situations is using her hands. She is controlling what she can control and creating this basket that is hopefully going to save the life of her child. I cannot imagine what building a basket with that in your mind is like. Do you think you cut any corners on basket building? It's the very best possible supply, the tightest tolerances. Because this basket, everything is resting on this basket. We look in Exodus chapter 2, verse 3. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. She took the basket, and the text tells us that she waterproofed it with tar and pitch. Every seam, every gap, checked it, double-checked it, triple-checked it. And when it was finally waterproof, when she finally had this constructed the way that she thought was the best possible way she could, the best that her hands could create, those same hands gathered up her son and laid it in that basket. And when her hands come off of her son, it's the realization that this may be the last time. And she picks up that basket and she starts walking towards the mighty Nile River. And the irony would not have been lost on her, because she is about to place her son in the exact river that the Pharaoh wants that boy to be. But she has devised something. She has crafted something. She, as a mother, has put her heart and soul into a little papyrus basket covered with tar and pitch to save, hopefully, the life of her son. And how? Who knows? But the boy can no longer stay in that community. Too much noise, too much obviousness, going to be found out and be put in the Nile River a different way. And the text tells us that her daughter, after this happens, and she takes the baby and sets it in the reeds at the edge of the Nile River, it says that mom can't watch. But the sister, her daughter, stands off to the side and watches the basket. She has her eye on the basket. Mom can't handle this. She can't look. And the text goes on, verses 5 and 6. It says, "Then soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. And when the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maids to go get it for her. And when the princess opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrew children, she said. The princess saw this little baby in the basket, and her heart melted. She felt sorry for the baby. And so she decided that what she would do is she would take the baby for herself, that she would take on this child. She was a rescuer, and she found this baby. And so when this is all transpiring and she's talking to her maids and it seems like this baby is now being secured in some way, the problem is she didn't have a way to nourish or to take care of this baby. And so the Moses' sister, because this is Moses in this basket, the sister comes in from the side and says to the princess, "Hey, do you need me to find a woman who can nurse this baby for you?" And the princess says, "Yes, please, do you have anyone?" She goes, "I just happen to know somebody." And she goes and gets her mom. And the irony of all ironies is that the child that the Pharaoh once killed is now being protected by the Pharaoh's own daughter, being nursed by that child's mother, and being financed by the Pharaoh because she paid her to do it. I mean, what a turn of events. And the thing we have to learn from this, because it translates to all other areas of our lives, is that God cannot do those kinds of things in our lives as long as we continue to hold on to the basket. As long as we continue to hold on to the child and never set the child in the basket. As long as we stay in control, as long as our grip is on it, God is unable to do that amazing thing that no one could have thought of, because there is no way that Jochebed could have possibly realized what was going to take place. She did not put Moses, and I've heard sermons about this, and they're flat out wrong. There is no way that Jochebed knows that by putting Moses in that basket, that guaranteed for sure the princess is coming down and Moses is going to be saved. Yes, that is how the story goes. And there is a hope and a faith that a mother can have that Jochebed had. But there's nothing guaranteed in what would have taken place. She made the best decision in the worst of options. And in that, God was able to do something, and only because Jochebed let go of the basket. Bob. So Bob tells us, "Look, I lied." We're talking about honesty. I'm supposed to be honest. My wife asked me if she was gaining weight and if it bothered me, and I said no, and I lied to my wife, and I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to correct it, and I'm going to tell her the truth. And I did the only thing a good friend could do. I literally panicked. I could feel short of breath. My heart rate went up, and I told him, "Bob, don't do this. Don't say that to your wife, and not only that, never let these words come out of your mouth to any human being ever again on planet Earth. There is no one safe enough to say this to. You're not lying to your wife." And he said, "I am lying to my wife." I said, "I don't even know, whatever term you think is lying, we need to change it. I'm sorry we had a Bible study. I'm sorry we're talking about this because this conclusion is terrible." I said, "She's going to kill you." He goes, "She's not going to kill me." I said, "I'm talking for real. You're going to be on a spike in the front yard. This you cannot do, please." And I tried to get him to promise me, "Bob, promise me that you're not going to say this to her, and promise me that you'll never say this to anyone else." And he would not promise me. He said, "I'm going home and I'm going to tell my wife that I lied to her, and it does bother me that she's fat." Our Bible study ended, and Rob went home. He sat his wife down, and he told her that he lied to her and that it did bother him that she was fat. Now, the next time I saw Rob was in his casket, and I leaned over and said, "You should have listened to me." Look, we can't control all these things. We want to. We want to grip onto it. We want to hold onto it. We want to be the one to direct it, to dictate, to say what it is. But the truth is that when we hold on, when we grip on, when we control the situation, when we make it our responsibility and we don't make room for God in that, when we lie to ourselves and say that as I'm gripping it, this is God's will, when we are God's instrument, we believe that, we're fooling ourselves. Because God never uses a clenched fist. We have to learn somehow, some way, in the worst of situations to open our hands. Somehow we have to let go and allow God to have a movement in it. It doesn't mean that we detach. Jochebed did not detach. She did not say it doesn't matter. She didn't give up. She didn't quit. She didn't just surrender for the sake of surrendering. She submitted her will. She even submitted her fear and trusted God to do something. That, friends, is not easy to do in life. It's probably the lesson that I've learned in my life, in my family, in my ministry here at Hillcrest, to learn to let go and let God move. To let Him do something in any situation in my life that I'm trying to control that is greater, better, more powerful, more significant, more in line with obviously His plan than what I have planned. I cannot be the dictator of it. I cannot be the guide for everything God wants to do. Believe it or not, God is not asking you your opinion. He's not asking you to make the plan. He has the plan. And if we don't know what it is, gripping tighter isn't going to clarify it for us. All the gripping, all the hoping, all the frustration has not helped you in the past, and it will not help you in the future. The thing that helps us is when we learn how to let go, how to release some of this. Look at the book of Proverbs. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take." God can work with an open hand, but He can't work with a gripped one. I have 3 beautiful grown children. All of them making their way in life. But I can remember very vividly what it was like when they were little in my home. And my wife, we would battle back and forth on what's the right amount of control. A mom always wants to have more control, and that's usually right. Me, I would let them climb up on the roof and jump to me. It seemed normal to me. It seemed fine. Nobody got hurt, but I can see where that was maybe not always the best idea. But we balanced that with one another. And that was every area of life, every choice, friends, the conflicts they had, what kind of schooling, how we were going to, help them with homework, how we discipline each kid uniquely from the other one because of how their personalities were. And we struggled with this back and forth. What do we hold on to and what do we let go of? And just when we think that we had figured it out and we had this great balance, they hit a new challenge, a new area of life that we just weren't prepared for. And what we always wanted to do was grip tighter. I need to control this situation. And the more I controlled it, the worse things got. And so we had to learn to let go. And then it finally came time that as they were legal adults, we would say that because we didn't ever feel they were adults. When they were legal adults, they could head out on their own and leave the nest. Friends, those are difficult moments. Because you are fully aware as a parent what a bad parent you've been. You can't help but think of all the mistakes you've made, the errors in judgment that you made, the error in discipline that you made, the things that you let go that you shouldn't have let go, and the things that you held too tight that they didn't get to learn because you didn't give them the opportunity. And here they were going out into the world. And we would help them pack up, and we'd put it in the car, put it in the moving van, and then we'd drive it to the location where they were going to be, and you would unload it, and your mind is spinning. You're trying to be in the moment. You're trying to act like you're okay, and you are anything but okay. Because they are about to launch into the world. And you feel so much responsibility, like somehow that is all on you, how they do. And you know full well that you haven't prepared them enough. And you are also fully aware that just about any other parent might have done a better job. But those kids got stuck with us. We did the best that we could. We believed. And I can remember my wife and I, we have very different ways of going about this. I kind of like unplug emotionally and just kind of get logical about it. And then my wife has enough emotion for both of us, which then kind of pulls me out of that, and we would find ourselves in tears. We'd find ourselves emotional about the situation. I remember each one when they moved out, how empty the house felt that night while I was sleeping in my bed, and realizing that their spirit was not in that house at that moment. And I would think, what are they doing? I've been thinking, I hope they're in bed. No, they're probably partying right now. They're probably staying up too late. They got school tomorrow. And what do you want to do? You want to call them, right? Now get to bed. And you can't. You have to learn to let go. And letting go is the hardest thing we ever have to do in life. Because you have to trust in something else. Jochebed could not continue to hold Moses. Even if she did all the work of constructing the basket to survive, she eventually had to make the effort and go to the place to let him go. And I've got to think that as she lowered it into the water, that she could feel more than just the basket, that she could feel all of motherhood, all of that protector, all of that nurture, all of her hopes for this child. And she looks into his face and she feels the weight of the basket removed on the floating on that water. And gently let go, right? We're going to make sure it's going to float, right? It's not going to tip over. And it shows stability. Maybe she grabs it again. And she lets go. And she's crouched down. And she has to stand up. But she doesn't want to leave it. She doesn't want to leave her baby. Second guessing. Bad idea. Stupid idea. What am I thinking? And then the realization, if I bring him back, he dies. An impossible situation. And she finds the strength to let go and trust that her child that is no longer in her hands is in the hands of one that's greater. That's the lesson. You and I have to learn how to let go so that the things that we are concerned the most with, the things that we are most passionate about, the things that our heart beats for, the thing that we struggle with, that thing can be taken from our hands and put into the hands of one who is more capable. Because God cares. And I can still remember Jenny and I laying in that bed. She's crying, and I'm crying, trying to act like I'm not crying because the lights are out. And we say to each other the only thing that we can even come up with at this point, because any logical thing we come up with just has us somehow going over and getting them and bringing them back home. And we both come to the understanding that God loves those kids more than we do. As much as that's not measurable for us, I do believe that God loves them more than we do. And if He does, can I trust His hands on my kids? Look, moms, happy Mother's Day. You have one of these moments in your life time and time again. And if you're not a mom, you have a mom who most likely had to make these same choices. And the basket that you built for your kids was not in vain. That the effort you put to prepare for them, to release them into the world is incredibly valuable. And your ability, as best as you could, to let go of that basket is the thing that your kids needed. And the thing that we can continue to demonstrate to our kids, and to our grandkids, and to whoever it might be that's watching us that we have influence with. It could be nieces, it can be nephews, it can be friends, it can be coworkers. Is that in our lives, we need to be the kind of people that can trust God with the big things. That we don't have to feel like it's all us, that it's all our control, that it's all our doing, that it's if I don't keep holding on, the whole thing's going to fall apart, and trust that I can let go. And that when I do the thing that I could have never imagined, Pharaoh's own daughter finds the baby. Her own daughter, who was watching this, is paying attention. A nursing mother is needed. Jochebed is called. Her son is returned to her breast. She nourishes her own child in the protection of the palace on the coin of the Pharaoh. And Moses grows up to be a leader of the Hebrew people, to carry them into the Exodus, to stand before the Red Sea, and with the power of the mighty God to part that sea. The same mighty hand of God that protected him in the basket, that brought a princess down because she stunk and needed a bath, and to cross through on the dry land, and to move into the promised land, and to save a people. 2 midwives, 1 mom, an attentive sister, a princess. And God did amazing things. My challenge for you today: let go. And as much as the cliche on its own is empty, I hope it has full meaning after the message today. Because it's not just let go. It's let go and let God. He is able. The minute we stop gripping on, and the moment we open our hands. Where do you need to open your hands? That's your challenge this week. Please stand. We're going to close with a song.